Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick, here with you as always, and this is episode number 52, so thanks for coming along. This is our third installment on our mini-series of Bushmills Irish Whiskey. So, if you've been following along the past couple of weeks, we've done Bushmills Original, and we've done Bushmills 10-year single malt. So, now we bring us up to the review for today, which is the Bushmills Black Bush. So, Bushmills doesn't go into too much depth about how they make this. If they do something different to the barrels, like char them again, give them that extra little toasting, which gives more charcoal on the outer surface of the wood, which in turn increases sort of the interaction between spirit and wood, and thus really enhancing those. Usually they're ex-bourbon barrels or sherry casks, so imparting some of those flavors just a little bit more than the original or standard lines. So it's not entirely clear if they do that because, like I said, there's not a ton of information out there. There's a lot of speculation for sure, and a lot of people out there. I've even seen this sold as a 12-year, which really just blew my mind because nowhere on here is there an age statement. We know it's not any less than 3 years in a day because it's an Irish whiskey, but 12 years is a little bit of a stretch. So why did I just bring the Jameson Black Barrel out? Well, these two are sort of big competitors, and I gotta laugh at this Jameson bottle. I didn't catch this on the review that I did of this, but it says Jameson Select Reserve Black Barrel Single Distillery, which is just hilarious to me because, in Ireland, it's mostly been Middleton Distillery or Irish Distillers that is, obviously making Jameson, making basically tons of the other brands that are popular nowadays. Now, of course, we have Cooley and Teeling now, and Bushmills, and some smaller things from the Kilbeggan Distillery, and all these other distilleries that are now popping up and starting to, or getting close to producing spirit of their own. But I think it's just funny that it has to say single distillery like it's Scotland or something where there's dozens of distilleries already there, and we need to make sure that we're not, getting something that's blended from different distilleries. So anyway, that was just a little anecdote there. But the real reason I bring the Jameson Black Barrel out with Black Bush is we are going to be launching a new segment this week, during the week. So look forward to about Wednesday, and it's going to be a straight talk whiskey face-off. Basically, what that means is a lot of people want to know when they go to the liquor store, should I get Bushmills Black Bush or should I get Jameson Black Barrel? That's the same thing with other whiskeys, and I'm not going to pull a bunch out, but you may be saying Jameson over Tullamore or Paddy over Bushmills, that sort of thing. Even with bourbon, scotch, that sort of thing. So we're just going to launch a new series that pits two pretty similar, pretty level playing field of the two different whiskeys and sort of give you my thoughts, sort of where I'm leaning towards if I were to go out and get it. But ultimately, obviously leaving that decision up to you, but just trying to give you a little bit more information and what I think about it. So, that being said, we can get rid of this Jameson because we're not focusing on that for the review. We're still in the Bushmills world. Now, I haven't been able to get the 16-year yet, or the 21-year, but I think in time those will come. So the Bushmills Black Bush. Now, the big thing about it that it does say is that it's aged in ex-sherry casks. So we do have that. And so that could be a little bit something different than they've done because obviously, like with the single malt, it's matured in two different woods, the ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry casks. So you have that little nuance there. So maybe it is just matured in sherry casks, and that's sort of where it's imparting the Black Bush from. So anyway, let's look color. Seems pretty normal, maybe a little bit more on the gold side than the original. It's hard to say because it's not in a glass, but color-wise, it's got a little bit more saturation to it in terms of the yellow honey, gold, coppery color in there. So we'll just give it a little walk around the glass. Again, just coating the glass, giving some of those chemicals and aromas that are in there to start opening up a little bit. So let's go in for the nose. Now, definitely what you get is sort of a fragrance note to it of sherry. It's not necessarily the sherry itself. If you were to pour yourself some Pedro Jimenez sherry or something like that, but rather it's sort of the fragrance of it, as like the wood that has been soaking, sherry that's been soaking in the wood for years and years and years, and you sort of go in once that cask is empty and sort of smell it. That's what you get here. Just a hint of the fragrance. Another thing that you get in here is a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of dried fruits. The other major player in this is grapes, and it's sort of just ripe grapes, almost a little bit overripe. But definitely like a nice, wholesome, white grape or something like that you might find. Sort of if you were to drink like a fine like white Zinfandel wine or something like that, you might notice some similarities between that and this Black Bush. And again, like I said, the vanilla is definitely in there. A little bit of honey, but predominantly it's that sherry fragrant note that I mentioned, as well as this grape sort of dried fruit note. So let's go in for a taste. It's got a nice sort of connection with the nose, in the sense that what you get first is this really sweet sort of outer coat that just coats the tongue, and it's this nice sherry note. And then underlying that, you sort of got this nice little trail of vanilla, some more subtle notes there going on. A little bit of cream in there, texture, slight coconut, which is sort of interesting. Just sort of kind of presses everything down just a little bit. Definitely a nice, it's 40% ABV, so it's nothing that's gonna, knock you out on the floor when you taste it. It's very nice and smooth and palatable. Now, I know we say smooth a lot, and that's supposed to, mean something better or worse, but it's really not. Smooth is just sort of the mouthfeel that you get. There's no over spiciness to it or real sharp alcohol bite or something like that you might get with others. Again, the proof being 80 like it is definitely helps that out, but really sort of nice, palatable, easygoing. The finish is not overly long, as with most of the Bushmills that we've talked about over the past couple weeks, but still a definitely very flavorful whiskey. And I've got to say now that I've had this and a couple drams of it now, I'm getting kind of excited to compare the Jameson Black Barrel and Bushmills Black Bush, because I think they're going to be pretty close up there, and it's going to be a hard battle to figure out which one sort of wins out in the end. But overall, like I said, it's got some nice fruitiness to it in terms of these grapes. Definitely this fragrant note of sherry, a little bit of coconut, which is definitely interesting in the taste, but really the nose is carrying through a lot of those things into the palate that you get when you taste it, which is sort of these little honey notes, vanilla, the grape, and the sherry, for sure. So let's go in for a score. And I would say it lands pretty nicely at a score of 84 out of 100. Now, Might seem a little bit low. I can't even remember what I put for the Jameson's Black Barrel. It may not even done a score because in the early days I sort of forgot about doing that because, ultimately it doesn't really matter because you could taste this and it could be the best whiskey you've ever tasted. That's just up to taste buds, personal preference, and how you drink this, something like this. And also that's another thing, how you drink whiskey. You may mix it with something, you may add some, like a cube of ice, something like that. One of the whiskey stones where you don't get the dilution of water, but you still get, the nice chilled aspect to it. So this could heighten your experience if that is something that you typically do. So not to knock it at all, but it's just not, in terms of the really bold, rich, flavorful whiskeys that I've had, sort of in the same line whiskeys, is just not, up there. It's just not grabbing me enough. Certainly nice. It's good. You can get a good mouthful of it. You don't have to sip sort of slowly like I've sort of suggested for other whiskeys, but you can get a nice good mouthful of it and really get sort of some really interesting flavors going on in there. So that's another week of Straight Talk Whiskey. We'll see you next week, but also in the middle of the week to give you sort of our Straight Talk Whiskey first throwdown, if you will. So we'll see you then. As always, drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.